Hello AP Biology students, we're going to start the 5th unit, which is about heredity. In this unit, we're going to cover how traits are passed from parent to offspring. This is by far the favorite unit for most students since we're going to go over Punnett squares. We're going to talk about Gregor Mendel and his discoveries. We're also going to take a deeper look at what those Punnett squares can tell us and what we can learn from this data. But again, we're just going to focus on how traits are passed from parent to offspring. That being said, let's go over the first section where we're going to cover just some terms or vocabulary words that we should know going into this unit. First of all, the field of genetics is just the study of how genes or traits are passed from parent to offspring. There's a lot that goes into that topic. We're going to be talking about genes and proteins and their functions later on in the next unit as well. But basically, all three of these are going to work together to pass traits from parent to offspring and create some physical characteristic. Two really important terms that we have to know are gene and allele. We've talked about these just a little bit in previous sections, but I want to go over them again here because it's really important to know the difference. Genes are a section of DNA that usually code for a characteristic of life. You can see in our diagram we have genes for hair color, genes for eye color. Alleles are alternative forms of a gene. I like to think of alleles as being different flavors of a gene. You can have different flavors of, like, say, ice cream, but all the different flavors are still ice cream. You can have different flavors or versions of a gene. You can have like a brown eye gene, a blue eye gene, a green eye gene. These different flavors or different forms are called alleles, but they're all from the same gene for eye color. We typically represent an allele with one letter, but not always. You're going to see that there are other cases where there are more than one letter, but for the most part, we represent one letter is an allele. A genotype is an allele combination, usually of two letters. These refer to the alleles an individual will receive at fertilization. If you look here, remember, we get one of these chromosomes from mom and one of these chromosomes from dad. These homologous pairs of chromosomes are going to have genes on them. These genes are going to have those alleles that we've been talking about. So we represent each of these chromosomes with a letter to represent what type of allele you inherited. So in this case, you can see from the mother, we got a capital A, and from the father, we got a lowercase a. Those alleles represent different versions or different types of genes, but they are again the same gene, just different versions. Now in this case, since there are two different alleles, a capital and a lowercase, it's important to remember that we're going to put the capital letter first. We'll talk about later why that's important. A phenotype is the physical appearance of an organism. This is usually based on its genotype. The next layer deeper that I want my AP biology students to learn is that it's the actual proteins that are being produced from the alleles. So again, we have our genotype that is determined by the chromosomes you inherit from your parents. These chromosomes have genes on them that are going to determine the genotype. The genotype is going to code for the phenotype or the physical characteristic. Now, these alleles can be either homozygous or heterozygous. A homozygous genotype is ones that have the same allele, while a heterozygous genotype are genotypes with different alleles. If you see here, we have our two homozygous genotypes, big B, or little b. Our heterozygous genotype is big B, or little b, big B, but remember, we would just make this a big B, little b since the capital letter has to come first. I like using this diagram because it helps us understand that these alleles are just, again, sections of DNA on a chromosome. We can literally move the chromosomes around physically and put the big B on this side so it's first. So when we say something is heterozygous, we're just saying that, hey, these two alleles on the separate chromosomes have different versions. Now, when we look at the capital letters and lowercase letters, they actually signify something being called dominant versus recessive. Dominant alleles are DNA that codes for a fully functioning protein. This might be a little bit different than what you learned in regular biology. Dominant alleles are sometimes referred to as just like a stronger of two alleles, which is technically true. You're going to see that dominant allele whenever it's present in a genotype. In my AP biology classes, I want my students to understand that a dominant allele is just DNA that produces a fully functioning protein. This is in comparison to a recessive allele where the DNA produces a protein with little or no function. That's the deeper meaning behind dominant versus recessive. By the way, dominant alleles, they're capital letters, recessive alleles, lowercase letters. And I love this image. I found this a couple years ago. Dominant allele, bigger, lowercase letter. Yeah. This meme here, I think, is the best meme I use all year. This job isn't for everyone, but hey, it's in my genes. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10.